4 a.m. in the woods. We're getting up before our house and we are bringing our first fruits to God first thing in the morning. This has become a chapter by chapter study and we are in 2 Samuel. We are actually in the last chapter of 2 Samuel. Not that I haven't loved 1st and 2nd Samuel. Old Testament is a doozy to study. We are learning so much about God because same God that we praise and worship in the New Testament is the same God that made the Old Testament. So we are just learning more about him. Let's get into the word. If you want a recap of last chapter, just check out the video that I uploaded yesterday. Chapter 24. The Lord's anger burned against Israel again, and he stirred up David against them to say, "Go, count the people of Israel and Judah." So the king said to Joab, the commander of his army, "Go through all the tribes of Israel from Dan to Beersheba and register the troops so I can know their number." Joab replied to the king, "May the Lord your God multiply the troops 100 times more than they are, while my lord the king looks on. But why does my lord the king want to do this?" Yet the king's order prevailed over Joab and the commanders of the army, so Joab and the commanders of the army left the king's presence to register the troops of Israel. They go to do this, and they get a number of how many. It takes them 9 months. David's conscience troubled him after he had taken a census of the troops, and he said to the Lord, "I have sinned greatly in what I have done. Now, Lord, because I've been very foolish, please take away your servant's guilt." I know what you're thinking, and hang on, I'm gonna get to that. God offers 3 different types of punishment for David. 1, 3 years of famine to come on your land. 2, to flee from your foes for 3 months while they pursue you, or have a plague on your land 3 days. Now consider carefully what answer I should take back to the one who sent me. Cue the Who Wants to Be a Millionaire music. So Gad, the seer, one of David's prophets, comes to him and delivers, "Here's 3 choices from God for punishment for what you have done." I had to stop while I was reading because my mind was so curious about why and what. Like, it was a lot swirling around. My thoughts were like, why is David being punished for something that God kind of incited him to do? And it didn't make sense to me until I read 1 Chronicles 21. 1 Chronicle 21, this account for this story starts by Satan rose up against Israel and incited David to count the people of Israel. So one account we have the Lord's anger burned against Israel, and then another account saying that Satan rose up against Israel. This is what I think. The Lord was angry against Israel. Satan happened to be there at this time, and God allowed Satan to stir up David and to tempt him to sin. It says in his word that God does not tempt people. He is not the one that follows through the temptation, but God allows Satan to tempt. He has to give them permission. He is still sovereign. God is in control of Satan, angels, and he sees a need for Israel to turn things around. He also uses sinful human aspects to fulfill his will, and it also helps because it will lead people to turn, and then it also burns out some sin in David. This census could have been an act of pride, or it could have been a lack of trust in God's provision and a lack of reliance in God. This gives us great insight into how the Lord operates. The Lord sees Israel is angry, whatever's going on with Israel, whether it's a national backsliding. The Lord sees that opportunity, wants to have his people turn to him. And so what often happens when people end up turning to him? Hard times happen, things that are very difficult. And so God is sovereign, and he's using this moment to burn out some sin and pride in David, to also purge the land and have them turn back because of their sins. And it also leads up to an altar which is going to be very significant. David had so much anxiety about choosing this, but he says, please let us fall into the Lord's hands because his mercies are great. Don't let me fall into the hands of my enemy. So the Lord sent a plague on Israel from that morning until the appointed time. From Dan Beersheba, 70,000 men died. Then the angel extended his hand towards Jerusalem to destroy it, but the Lord relented concerning the destruction and said to the angel who was destroying the people, enough, withdraw your hand now. The angel of the Lord was then at the threshing floor of Araunah the Jebusites. When David saw the angel striking the people sick, he said to the Lord, look, I am the one who sinned. I am the one who has done wrong. But these sheep, what had they done? Please let your hand be against me and my father's family. God is in control of these angels. He uses these angels to facilitate punishments. He uses angels to deliver messages. Angels are very much involved in human life. Gad, the seer, the prophet, came to David that day and said to him, go up and set an altar to the Lord on the threshing floor of Araunah the Jebusite. So the same place that this angel was delivering this plague, this consequence, was the same place that God told David to build an altar for the Lord at. David went up in obedience to Gad's command, just as the Lord had commanded. Araunah looked up and saw the king and his servants coming towards him, so he went and paid homage to the king with his face to the ground. Araunah said, what has my lord the king come to his servant? David replied, to buy the threshing floor from you in order to build an altar to the Lord, so the plague on the people may be halted. So basically, Araunah, he's such a sweet dude, trying to just give it to David for free. But then David says, no, I insist on buying it from you for a price, for I will not offer to the Lord my God burnt offerings that cost me nothing. The offering for the sacrifice was there, but David still needed to buy it. Jesus' offering, his sacrifice is there, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't cost us anything. So he built an altar there, he offered sacrifices, and then the Lord relented, and then the Lord was receptive to their prayers. This altar was very significant. The threshing floor of Araunah is where the angel was coming to punish with the plague over Israel. It was now a site of an altar. It was traditionally known as Mount Moriah, which is the site of Solomon's temple coming up, and the place where Abraham was instructed to sacrifice Isaac. And a lot of scholars believe that this was the same spot that Jesus was crucified in, and some believe it was very close by. So what does this look like? People who have backslidden, turned away, who needed a sacrifice for their sins, who, when received one, the Lord heard their prayers and relented. We are just like the Israelites. Jesus was the sacrifice for our sins, and it cost us something. It cost us a worldly life, a worldly living, to follow him, to live for him, to be persecuted. David knew it cost him something, and we should know it cost us something. And I don't know about you, but my bill is nowhere near as high as the bill that Jesus paid for me. And I'm so blessed and thankful that I have his presence and his spirit, and that he hears my prayers. And a worldly living doesn't even mean that much to me anyways, and it shouldn't mean much to you. Whew, I gotta calm down. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all on the next video when we dive into 1 Kings.